This is DZAIR News, English News Edition.
First, the headlines. Prime Minister Abdelmalek Salal is on a working visit to Qatar aimed at further bolstering Algerian-Qatari relations. National Education Minister Nouria Ben Ghabrit has blasted the school buses strike, describing the work stoppage as illegal. And in Tunisia, the voters today went to the polls to elect the country's new president through universal suffrage. Hello ladies and gentlemen, you're watching DZAIR News and welcome to our English News Edition. First, in our top stories, Prime Minister Abdelmalek Salal started Saturday a working visit to Qatar, where he co-chaired with his Qatari counterpart, Sheikh Abdullah bin Nasser bin Khalifa Al Thani, the proceedings of the 5th Algeria-Qatar Joint High Commission's meeting on Sunday. The Algerian delegation, led by Prime Minister Salal, was welcomed upon arrival at the airport of Doha by Qatari Finance Minister Ali Sharif Al Imadi. The 5th Algeria-Qatar Joint Higher Cooperation Commission meeting will be an opportunity for both sides to assess bilateral cooperation in all fields of endeavour. Algeria expects the signing of several agreements and action programmes meant for boosting the ties between the two friendly countries. Still with the same file, Prime Minister Salal, while in Qatar, paid a courtesy visit to the CEO of the Qatari Foundation for the Education, Science and Community Development, Mouza bint Nasser al-Misnad. During the encounter which took place at the institution, Mr. Salal received explanations about its functioning process and its educational, cultural and scientific activities. It is also expected that Prime Minister Salal will inaugurate the brand new Algerian embassy premises in Doha. In domestic news, the Secretary General of the National Liberation Front Party, Ammar Sadani, has indirectly responded to critics by taking over the party and its history. For the Secretary General of the FLN, the front, moved by the desire to serve the people, is a locomotive, not a wagon pulled by those who want to reverse the course of the history, he underscored. Regarding the national consensus, Mr. Sadani considers that the ongoing consultation between the FLN and the FFS are very important for the protection and the cohesion of the country, as he put it. Karim Fazakri has more.
Organising a successful gathering in the province of Batna in eastern Algeria was a great challenge for the Secretary General of the FLN party, Ammar Sadani, due to the countless protests organised by members of the FLN in the province last October against appointing 3 new deputies in the province. Fierce clashes which escalated to physical abuse, in which baton and stones were used by the protesters who demanded the departure of Ammar Sadani. After a month, here is Ammar Sadani organising a gathering in the same province without any problems hindering the way. So with this, the Secretary General of the FLN wins the challenge which he raised against those against him. And it is indeed the message he wanted to deliver to his rivals through his speech in the gathering, where Sadani criticized what's being plotted against him in the party. He also stated that there are some voices mobilized by some hidden hands which use the parliament to hit the National Liberation Front hard. Through a clear sign from his part to gather some signatures which some leaders in the part are managing among the members of the Central Committee, and according to some sources which state that through the gathering of Batna, Sadani wants to fight back his rivals who are trying to shake his grounds, especially in this province. The meeting of Sadani with FLN members in Batna came as the aftermath of the reorganization which he made in different provinces and divisions. It is also a hint from his part to his rivals who are trying to overthrow him that he has much support.
Minister of National Education Nadia Kasmi blasted strikes and said that her recourse to administrative court is to apply the law on the basis that the strike is illegal. The ministry renewed its refusal to undergo what is called bargaining through protests and strikes pursued by some independent education unions and staffs. Usama Snusi has more.
It seems that the tension continues to mount between the Minister of National Education and the sector's unions, as Mrs. Benrabri described the union's behaviour as extortion, where according to her solving problems and demands doesn't happen immediately, but rather after negotiations.
And sometimes we move forward, sometimes backward. We can accomplish a case and discuss another. But when we negotiate, it should be right away or we go on strike. I would call that extortion.
School bursars' strike, which kicked off with the beginning of the school year and still continues, has entered its third month, will cost the strikers their salaries, according to the minister, after the administrative court confirmed the illegitimacy of this strike.
The court had said that this strike is illegitimate, knowing that it has entered the third month. You get paid because you work, but if you don't work, you get nothing. Since you have mentioned this problem, I think this situation is really serious.
45 meetings were held between the ministry and education partners after the arrival of the minister, who didn't solve any of the problems. The protests are constant and the ministry is committed to its decisions, but the biggest victim is the student.
One of the most overwhelming impediments to the inhabitants of Khmisti neighborhood in Bir Algerian in Oran is the lack of roads reform, fixed telephone networks and internet, and the non-allocation of spaces to throw waste on the other hand. Also, the plots devoted to building are now threatening the life of the population. More details with Amina Jourlal.
The complete absence of road construction, landline telephone network and the internet and public lighting came to constitute a real hindrance that irks the citizens of Khmisti neighborhood in Bir Algir in Oran.
It's terrible. The appalling state of the roads causes a lot of damage to our cars. We cannot get in touch with our relatives because there is no landlines and no internet access in our region.
It's too dark at night here. There is no public lighting. If you have an emergency and go out, you can't not see anything. And last time, one of my neighbor's daughter was mugged. Another woman was beaten and robbed there.
The fields devoted to construction, which are currently unused, have been turned into places to throw the waste, in the absence of a dedicated spot for it, which in turn poses a risk to the residents of the neighborhood, especially children, because of leaving the iron bars without protection.
Look at this field. It has been left unused for 10 years with its iron bars. Isn't it dangerous? We cannot leave our children play outside. In addition to that, there is a lot of mud in winter. It has been in this state for 11 years.
The numerous empty promises made by the relevant officials, which were supposed to work for the welfare of the local residents, but the reality now is completely different, and the situation in this locality is still disastrous after many years of oblivion on the part of the local authorities.
The proceedings of the Arab Conference to fight the cancer disease are still underway at the Sheraton Hotel here in the capital Algiers, in the presence of more than 450 delegates. The timely conference aims at discussing ways of cooperation and exchanges between Arab countries for early detection of cancerous tumors. More details with Karim Faz-Zakri.
With the participation of more than 450 doctors from different Arab and foreign countries, the Arab Conference was held to discuss the situation of cancer patients and the possibility of diagnosing the disease at its early stages.
There are more than 450 participants from Algeria, Tunisia and Morocco in this conference. It aims at continuous training and sharing different experiences across the Arab world, as well as the Western one. For instance, we have a speaker from France. It's exchanging knowledge and experiences between Algeria and the other countries. He will raise problems and questions that interest all of us through constructive dialogue and debate regarding the treatment of tumors and the reality we have been living in the Arab Maghreb. Working in collaboration is the only solution to have a strong and united Maghreb.
During a press conference, Dr. Bounejar has confirmed that medicine of international brand to combat cancer is available in the Algerian market.
Any medicine found across the globe under the guidelines of American Society of Clinical Oncology or European Society of Medical Oncology is available in the Algerian market under the same guidelines.
So it's indeed a medical exploratory conference which aims at exchanging different knowledge and experiences to combat cancer in the Algerian society and the Arab world as a whole.
Transport Minister Ammar Ghoul has announced that new railway lines are planned to spur economic growth in the province of Ouargla in southern Algeria as part of a modernization program of their national railway sector to make it tally with international norms. More on the topic with Mohamed Barazwan.
The 3 railway lines planned in the region will give a new impetus to the dynamics of economic development in the region, the minister said during a recent working visit to the southern Algerian province. The railway lines will link Ouargla and Laguat via Gardaya and will connect the regions of Hassi Messaoud to Gourt and Ouargla towards Selwet, Tibessa and Soukahras before reaching the ports of Annabas, Kikda and Jijel on the northern coastline. The third line links to Gourt and Ouargla towards the eastern city of Constantine. This railway network, which Ouargla is the intersection, will give a new impetus to economic activities in the south of the country and ease the pressure on the road network. These strategic and modern operations guaranteed during railway transport will help ensure the delivery of necessary products for the economic, industrial and petroleum activities in this region, spanning almost 600 kilometers. During his one-day working visit to Ouargla, the Ministry of Transport inspected projects and inaugurated at Krim Belqasem Airport of Hassi Messaoud an airport maintenance base of the group RedMed, which includes troubleshooting and repair workshops in addition to a training wing.
On the international news scene, Tunisians are voting Sunday in a presidential election that will be closely fought contest between an old guard who flourished under decades of autocratic rule and a new breed of politicians that has emerged since a 2012 revolution. Voting started at 8 a.m. local time on Sunday and polling stations will close at 6 p.m. More than 4,500 polling booths have been set up to receive more than 5.2 million eligible voters. More details with Mustafa Azzouk.
Tunisians are voting in the country's first presidential election since the 2011 Arab Spring that saw the overthrowing of the former president Zine El Abidine Ben Ali. More than 25 candidates are in the race, but according to latest opinion polls, incumbent Monsef Marzouki and leader Badi Qaid Sibsi are widely seen as the favourites in Sunday's presidential elections. The poll forms part of a political transition after the revolution that triggered off an uprising across the country back in 2011. Tunisia, seen as the birthplace of the Arab Spring, is considered to have had the most successful outcome with low levels of violence compared to other Arab nations, namely Egypt and Libya, which are now drawing in violence and mayhem. Sunday's election will deliver the country's first directly elected leader since the removal of Mr. Ben Ali. Most polling stations were opened at 8 a.m. and due to close 10 hours later. If no candidate wins more than 50% of the vote, a runoff round will be held on December 31st. Critics suggest that Mr. Sibsi from Nina Tunis party is favourite to win after his party came first in the parliamentary election. Tunisia is still facing the spectre of civil unrest and terrorism, with Interior Minister Lotfi bin Jadou warning off of serious security threats near the Algerian border, where Al-Qaeda militants are still hiding.
Elsewhere in troubled Egypt, a charred body has been found near a train station in the southern part of the country after a bomb exploded as police under cover 3 unexploded devices planted on railway tracks in the region. The blast took place on Saturday night in the town of Al-Wasta in the province of Beni Suef, south of Cairo. The Interior Minister said in a statement that the body probably belonged to the person who had planted the bomb. The unexploded bombs were found on railway lines linking Cairo to the far southern city of Aswan. The military said Egypt has been hit by a wave of bombings and shootings since the military ousted President Mohamed Morsi in July 2013. In Syria, in the 2 months since the United States and coalition allies first launched airstrikes against ISIS targets inside of Syria, the missions have killed more than 910 people, nearly all ISIS elements, a monitoring group said Saturday. But 52 civilians, including 8 children and 5 women, are among those who have been killed in the coalition airstrikes inside Syria, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The London-based organization is aligned with the Syrian opposition. The United States had mostly stayed out of the Syrian civil war, which has been ongoing since March 2011, but as the battlefield fractured with the entry of jihadists like ISIS, the calculus changed, prompting on a US-led coalition air intervention against ISIS targets. A powerful earthquake has struck a mountainous region in western China, killing at least 4 people and injuring many others, including school children in Iran during the quake. At least 54 were injured after the 5.9 magnitude quake hit near the country of Kanglin in Sichuan province on Saturday. A total of 330 homes collapsed and 2,063 suffered serious damage. On the other hand, in Japan, dozens of people were injured and many homes destroyed after an earthquake struck villages in central Japan. Officials said on Sunday that the 6.7 magnitude quake destroyed at least 73 homes and injured 39 people, including 77 cases across a mountainous region. Japan is testing out a new high-speed train that can reach eye-watering speed of up to 500 kilometers per hour. This month, the Central Japan Railway Company is conducting test runs with passengers aboard the maglev train, which uses magnetic levitation to travel at the speeds that are faster than Japan's famous bullet trains, which tops out of 320 kilometers per hour. In a video on the test run, passengers break out in nervous giggles and applause as they watch the counter on a digital screen pass from 499 to 500 kilometers per hour. The aim of the project, which is set for completion in the 2027, is to cut travel time between Tokyo and the city of Nagaya by about half, from 90 to 40 minutes. The United Nations Organization has published a report warning the dangerous climate change are to be expected in the next coming years if carbon emissions are not cut to zero. It is still not late to consider drastic actions, but the longer it takes, the more expensive it will be. More details with Shakib Lawishi.
The UN has warned in a report that the world's carbon emissions will have to be cut to zero in around half a century to avoid dangerous climate change. The UN Environment Programme, UNEP, said that carbon emissions from human activities such as burning fossil fuels should hit net zero by between 2055 and 2070 to prevent temperatures rising more than 2 Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Countries have agreed to limit temperature rises to no more than 2 Celsius, beyond which dangerous impact of climate change are expected. But the UN Environment Programme said if the world carries on as it is, greenhouse gas emissions would be way beyond safe limits. To have a likely chance of staying below 2 Celsius, greenhouse gas emissions should drop by about 15% or more by 2013 compared to 2010 levels, and be at least 50% lower by 2050 on the way to net zero emissions. It could be possible that some emissions will remain at the end of the century if they are compensated for by measures that take in carbon, such as planting trees to achieve carbon neutrality. But delaying taking rigorous action now until after 2020 would lead to higher costs and greater risk to society. The Emissions Gap report is published ahead of the UN climate talks in Lima, Peru, which are working towards a new global deal to tackle climate change. The UN Environment Programme Executive Director Achim Steiner said an increase in global temperature is proportional to the build-up of long-lasting greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, especially carbon dioxide. Drastic measures have to be taken in the next coming years, otherwise our planet will have to suffer a high price.
Word about sports now. Lionel Messi scored 3 goals to become the top Spanish league's career leading scorer with 253 against Sevilla. Messi surpassed the mark of 251 goals set by Athletic Telmo Zarra in 271 La Liga games from 1940 to 1955. Playing in his 289th league game, Messi equaled Zarra's record in the 21st minute. He then scored in the 72nd and in the 78th. Messi, who has a club record 365 goals in all competitions, thanked his supporters over Facebook and posted a video of his first league goal scored on the 1st of May 2005. And finally, meticulously and dances in harmony, cultural creativity, tissues and mosaic of contemporary dances manufactured identity, different nationalities of the world, teams combine to provide the most beautiful performances by the Mahidin Bashtarzi Theatre Hall in the evening closing of the International Festival of Contemporary Dance here in Algiers. Hins Minaras has more.
A young public got to watch the remarkable final night of a memorable week of the 6th edition of the International Cultural Festival of Contemporary Dance, a night where young Algerian talent, from contemporary to break dancers, shined on stage. Disabled children were put on the spotlight, and exceptional international professional dancers performed under the theme Sharing.
This is the first time coming to Algeria. I've been performing widely in Tunisia, Morocco, in some other countries, but not the very first time.
They have impressed me. I'm so happy for whatever they did is what we have been doing for those 2 weeks. I'm so happy about that. I saw the performance, it was about peace. Okay, the beginning was a bit more war, but it's the ending of the war. So, but everything was about peace. Yeah.
Raghounath Mane stole the show with his amazing choreography, combining Indian folkloric music and contemporary dance in a one-of-a-kind spiritual performance.
You know, the rhythm and the music goes together. It's not something you put the dance here, music here. When you combine both, it's fantastic.
4 dancing troops were lucky enough to win the awards for their brilliant performances. KBS troupe from Ain Difla took 4th place, while George Mambe crew from Ivory Coast took 3rd place. Stopgap Dance Company was in 2nd place, and the Croatian dancing crew took home the award for 1st place. Participants expressed their hopes that many other festivals will be organized in the coming years.
The end of our English news edition. Thank you so much for tuning our way. Goodbye.
That was DZAIR News English News Edition.